All right, thank you everybody for being here. This is the info session for the first year abroad program going to Ecuador. We're really glad to have you all here. So let's quickly, before we start the presentation, we'll quickly just do some introductions. Feel free, if you'd like to turn on your camera, we would love to see your faces. If you're not able to, we understand as well, but it would be great to see you as we're chatting. I'm Scott Ozorowski. I work in the study abroad office, kind of behind the scenes, helping arrange things for all the FY abroad programs, including this Ecuador program. Windsor.
Yeah, and I'm Dr. Windsor Greer. I'm a professor in the Department of Biological Sciences, and I'm the instructor for the course.
All right, go ahead, Windsor. Take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you're having a nice day and your fall quarter is going well. So, like I said, I'm the instructor for the Biodiversity and Modern Extinction Crisis course. It is a seminar course, and I'm basically going to give you a little bit of background first on the topic, and then we'll go into a little bit about how the program is structured, and then I'll just give you a chance to ask any questions you might have. And as you might have heard, we're having major problems with the Earth's ecosystems. And so biologists have actually proposed the name Anthropocene for the current geological era because the magnitude, because of the influence that humans are having on all of the Earth's ecosystems. You know, places that are close to to our cities, to the depths of the Amazon forest in South America, to the bottom of the ocean. You can see signs of the actions of humans really everywhere on Earth now. And it's so bad, it's gotten so bad that some biologists have proposed that we're going through the sixth extinction. In the history of the life on Earth, there have been 5 major mass extinctions. Extinctions where very large percentages of living organisms have almost gone extinct. And now we're going through a major extinction event again. There's 8 billion people with a B, that's 8 billion. So the number of people has increased dramatically in the last century. And this is resulting in tremendous loss of natural ecosystems in space for other organisms. So I guess next slide. So in this focal point seminar, we're going to examine the extinction crisis from different perspectives. And this course is going to run in the winter quarter. It's going to run just one day a week on Fridays. So we'll meet Friday afternoons from 2:30 to 5:45. There'll be time for a break in there. And we're going to learn about the state of biodiversity and the factors that are causing the decline of natural ecosystems. And we're going to look at that from different perspectives. So one of the things we're going to do is, it's a seminar, so most of what we'll do is we'll spend time discussing. We're going to have reading assignments. So we're going to read The Sixth Extinction. It's a book by Elizabeth Kolbert, and this book won the Pulitzer Prize, so it's a very well-written book. And it goes over case study, it goes over the extinction crisis, and then some case studies about what's happening and how people are trying to deal with it. So we're going to be doing a lot of discussion. You'll be doing some presenting. We'll be reading papers together. So it's going to be a scenario where we're going to be learning from each other. You'll do research on topics, and then you'll present that, and then I'll do presentations as well. You're also going to write a review paper. So we won't have an exam. We won't have exams in this course. What we have is we have a writing assignment. So we'll have a review paper that you'll write about this topic. And what we'll do is every couple of weeks, we'll basically have a portion of the paper due. So we'll discuss a topic, we'll learn about it, we'll review some literature on it. And then based on that, you're going to write a portion of the paper. We'll do peer review. So we'll exchange the paper amongst, you'll exchange the paper with classmates. And then you get some feedback. You'll get a grade on that first draft. And then the next, we'll have another couple of weeks, and then you'll do another section. And at the end of the course, you're basically going to compile all of those drafts into a single paper with a summary and a conclusion section. And then that's the paper assignment. So you'll be doing this over the quarter. You'll be getting feedback as you go. And at the end, I'm hoping you'll have a really nice product that puts your voice into what we've learned. Next topic.
Now, actually, let me add one thing
Oh.
before we move on. So, and this course is designed for first-year students. So I'm hoping all of you, or at least most of you here, are first-year students. It's your LSP 112 class, which, typically for most of you this fall, you're taking a Discover or an Explore class. And this is the next class in that sequence, where either in your winter or spring quarter, you need to take LSP 112. Almost all majors have to do that. There are a few majors who don't. Theater, music, and some of the CDM majors don't need to do a focal point seminar. And then if you're an honors student, that's not something that you have to take. But if you are an honors student, you will get specific honors credit for this. So honors students are very much encouraged to do it. You will definitely get honors credit. And even for those other majors that don't need one, you still can get your experiential learning credit for this. So just kind of how this fits in, but it's a required class. There's going to be about 100 sections of focal point seminars. And what we've done is we've taken 7 of those and added a study abroad component to them. And this Ecuador program is one of them. So it's a normal class that most first-year students you're going to be taking in either winter or spring quarter. So, all right.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Winter.
Okay, so we're going to be learning about this topic, and we're going to go. I'm a professor in biology, so we'll spend a lot of time on the biological aspect. So we'll talk about the origin of biodiversity, how biodiversity is distributed throughout the planet. We'll talk about how it's measured, and we'll talk about why biodiversity matters in terms of how ecosystems function. So what are the differences between ecosystems that are species poor and species rich, and then we're also going to talk about the factors that are causing extinction today. And so we'll go through some examples and we'll talk about some of the major factors that are at play. Next slide. After we do that, so we'll talk about the biology, we'll learn about that, and then we're going to go into the economy of the extinction crisis. And so we'll look at that economically from 2 different perspectives. One, what are the economic drivers? So what are the pressures that are put on people to exploit natural resources? And why are we having such problems with being able to manage how we do that? So we'll talk about the economic drivers of the problem and the complicated decisions that have to be made relative to those drivers. But we'll also talk about how economists and scientists are collaborating to make an economic argument for the conservation of biological diversity. So it turns out human beings, we forget it sometimes, but we're organic beings, so we depend. We're part of the evolutionary tree of life. We're part of the ecosystem, and so we depend on services that are provided by nature for our survival. We depend on clear water. We depend on air. We depend on natural food resources, and we even depend on nature for our health. And so you can put economic value on some of the services that ecosystems provide and make the case that we should be conserving natural ecosystems for our own well-being. And if we don't do that, this is what's going to cost to replace the services that nature provides us basically for free. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the ethics of the biodiversity crisis. So do we have an obligation, do we have a moral obligation to conserve natural ecosystems? If some species are going extinct, isn't that just too bad for them? I mean, aren't they supposed to just adapt to us? What are the ethical arguments for conserving nature? And what are some of the difficulties we make with making those arguments? It can get complicated because there's, like I said at the beginning, there's 8 billion people with a B, and many people are living in fairly extreme poverty. And so it can be difficult for countries to prioritize conserving nature and natural ecosystems when they have very severe, when people in that country don't have access to food in some cases, or basic, health services. So it can get difficult, but we'll talk about, the ethical perspective and our ethical arguments enough to persuade people that conserving biodiversity is a worthy thing to do. Next slide. We're going to go to Ecuador, so we'll be there 10 days. I'll go over the program in a second, but we'll leave during finals week, the Thursday of finals week, and then we'll come back the next weekend after spring break. And so we'll be there for about 10 days. And we're going to Ecuador for a number of reasons. For one, my family's from Ecuador, so I lived there for 10 years when I was younger. I study the freshwater fishes of Ecuador. And so, I know the country. I have colleagues there. So, we have good connections to be able to explore the problems that we're exploring. And also, biologically, Ecuador is one of the most diverse countries on Earth. It's really extraordinary in that it's a pretty small country. It's about the size of the state of Arizona. It's a small country. But within that very small area, it has an extraordinary diversity of ecosystems. And so if you look at the map, the green on the left there is the coastal lowlands. So there's these just gorgeous sandy beaches in the north part of Ecuador. And then as you go south, that switches into a mangrove forest ecosystem, these trees that come to the ocean. And then as you go inland, there's dry forest. And as you go north, that transforms into rainforest. So there's a lot of heterogeneity there of ecosystems just in the coast. But then we get to the brown part. The brown part are mountains, and that's part of the Andes Mountains. So as you go up the mountains, there's very rapid transition in the environmental characteristics of those ecosystems. And so you have very rapid transition of species and huge levels of biodiversity in some groups, like birds and amphibians. The Andes Mountains in Ecuador are some of the places that have the highest levels of species diversity for many groups, including birds and amphibians. And so we go up the mountains. At the very top, you get eventually to a point where trees can't grow anymore. There's just grasses. And then there's ice cover. And so we'll explore that Páramo habitat, where there's Andean condors and other species. There's cougars. There's other species that are characteristics of those habitats. So, very different perspective and very, very beautiful area. The mountains, the Andes Mountains, just these stunning landscapes. And then as you go down on the other side, the right side of the mountains, eastern Ecuador, that area, those low-lying areas, those are basically the headwaters of the Amazon forest. As you transition in the mountains on the right side, that goes into the Amazon forest. And those ecosystems there on the right side of the Andes, on the east side, those are, again, some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth. So we'll go to Yasuní National Forest, a large national park in Ecuador, and we will stay with an indigenous community there. They have an eco lodge, and we will stay with them. They'll teach us about how they use the ecosystem. You'll see how closely linked people can be to nature. Native people in South America, they really are very, very closely intertwined with the forest, with the rivers, and they use forest and river products for everything. They're completely dependent on those resources for their everyday life. So we'll stay there a few days, and then we'll fly back to the coast, and then we'll start in the very high part, the Páramo, top mountains, go down to Yasuní, stay with the indigenous community for several days, and then we'll fly to the other side, to the coast, and we'll conclude the program in a beach town called Puerto Lopez, and we'll visit a little coastal island called Isla La Plata, where we'll learn about the threats to the oceanic ecosystems and island ecosystems. So we'll see in Isla La Plata, they call it the Little Galapagos. And it has these very large colonies of seabirds, blue-footed boobies, magnificent frigates. It has a very small colony of albatross. So it has seabirds like you would find on the Galapagos at very high numbers. It's really extraordinary. And then there's humpback whales in a different time of year. There's lots of fish resources. So just beautiful, diverse ecosystem, but threatened by a number of factors like overfishing, ocean acidification due to increases in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and then just pollution. You'll see the plastics not generated by the people there. Isla La Plata, there's no resident people. No one throws any garbage there. You'll see the beach. You'll see the plastics on the beach that are coming in from the ocean. Sometimes they come all the way across the Pacific. Others are coming from the coast of South America. And so we'll talk about that. One thing I forgot to mention in Yasuni, there's a number of threats there in the rainforest region, but one of the biggest one is that, and it's one of the things that makes the situation very difficult. Yasuni is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, literally. Like the levels of species diversity per unit area are very, very high, among the highest on Earth. Underneath the rainforest, there's some of the largest oil deposits in South America. So there's enormous pressure to exploit that oil. And so we'll learn about those types of problems where the indigenous community and conservation biologists don't want the oil exploited, because when oil exploitation happens, there's a whole suite of things that need to happen that lead to other problems, and then you can have oil spills as well. But Ecuador has high poverty rates. Oil is one of the biggest exports and one of the major sources of funds for the national economy. The government of Ecuador wants to exploit that oil. And many people support that because they depend on those resources for government services. How do you deal with that, right? So we'll talk about that, and we'll learn from what the people in the area think. And yeah, so we'll every place we go, we'll learn about the biodiversity, and we'll also talk about what are the problems. And you'll see them. You'll see the organisms. You'll hear from biologists in country that are working in country. In every place, we'll hear from people in the country that are working on these issues. And then you'll also see the threats. On the way to Yasuni, on the drive there, you can literally see the oil pipes, and in some places the fire that gets produced from oil production. So you'll see like open flames shooting in the air. So we'll deal with that. Next slide. So we fly to Ecuador. We'll be there 10 days. We see these different ecosystems, very, very different places. The top slide is a páramo habitat. Tops of the Andes Mountains. The second slide is a rainforest in South America, representative of what we'll see in Yasuni. Not quite like that with the huts, but but similar type of ecosystem. And the place we stay is right next to the river. And then on the bottom slide, the coastal ecosystem, islands and oceans. So we'll be within these 10 days over a very small area. We'll be going to very, very different places. Next slide. And this is the actual itinerary. So let me just get my view here out of the way. So we'll depart Thursday of finals week. March 21st, we'll depart and we'll arrive to Quito, the capital of Ecuador. And then the next day we start with activities. We'll go see the high elevation ecosystem in Antisana, where there's it's a place that's famous for viewing condors at very high elevations in the mountains, just these beautiful places. Then we'll go to the rainforest. So we'll spend the 23rd. We'll be traveling the 23rd, arrive there late the 23rd. We'll be there 24th, 25th, 26th in the Yasuni with our native community and our native hosts. And then the 27th of March, we fly to Puerto Lopez. We'll be staying in Isla La Plata. And we'll have a day where we go to Isla Plata. You'll snorkel a little bit. Yes, you will be able to snorkel. So there's snorkeling there in Isla Plata. There's some sea turtles. There's some reef fishes. It's a nice area. And you'll see the seabird colonies, or we walk between the seabird nests on the island. So it's a really, really nice place. And it's a beach ecosystem. So we'll have some downtime at the end of the program in the beach. The 28th, we have an activity where we visit the Pacific Wild Foundation, which is led by a local scientist, and she will explain her work that they do. They study coastal dolphins and humpback whales, but they also have these very innovative programs teaching education, conservation education to local communities in that area. We'll go to Isla Plata with them, and we'll do some snorkeling, and then we have a little bit of a little time there. We'll have a little bit of free time after the Isla Plata, and then we'll transfer to Guayaquil and fly back from the city in Guayaquil on that Saturday.
Windsor,
So
there's one more question in the chat. Do you know the name of the indigenous group that you stay with?
Yeah, they're the Quechua. Well, it's a Quechua.
Oh, hold on. She had got kicked out of the meeting and she just came back in. So okay, she's back in. So you're gonna answer now.
Yeah. So it's a Quechua community, and the place is called Mandaripanga. Mandaripanga. It's a Quechua community. So there's Guarani, and the Quechua people are people that are originally from the mountains, and many of them have come down into the rainforest. So there's Quechua communities in the rainforest. And there's also Guarani communities. And so this will be a Quechua community, and it's in a place called Mandaripanga.
Right. All right, I'm going to go through the next couple of slides, just with a couple of logistical things. So the application deadline for this program is November 1st. Some of you on the Zoom right now have already applied or already started your application. If so, that's great. If you have not started to apply yet, or if you've not submitted your application, please make sure to do that in the next week and a half. You just go to the FY Ecuador page. There's a blue button that says apply here, and you click on it. 4 or 5 questions that you fill out that just ask about why you're interested in doing the program. And then Windsor, as well as the staff professional, Emily, who's going to be helping lead this program with Windsor, are going to be in touch with you for a brief interview. It's not like a high pressure interview. It's just a small group interview with maybe 3 or 4 of you, where they're just going to get to know you a little bit and have time for you to ask questions as well. And then after that whole process is done, we will let you know, and probably sometime in mid-November, if you're going to be offered a spot on the program or not. We have 20 spots available on the program to offer to students. And so we don't know how many people will apply, but we do our best to try to give spots to as many people as we can. There's no separate scholarship application. So if you are interested in scholarship funding for this, as long as you apply to the program by November 1st, then you'll automatically be considered for our scholarships. And we look at your academics and your financial situation from the financial aid office to determine scholarships. And if you get accepted to the program, we're going to let you know you were accepted to the program. And usually by the next day, you get another email that lets you know if you got a scholarship, and if so, how much that scholarship is. And those scholarships range from $1,000 up to almost the full cost of the program. So if finances are something that are concerning for you, my best advice is apply to the program, see if you get accepted, and you'll automatically hear about scholarships, see what kind of scholarship funding you do or don't get, and then you can decide what to do. Every year we have students who maybe don't get as much scholarship as they thought. And then at that point, you can just say, you know what, I'm going to just withdraw my application. There's no application fee. There's no penalty to do that at that point. Once you find out about your scholarship award, we give you a couple of weeks to make your decision of if you want to move forward or if you don't want to move forward. And that's totally up to you. Again, you'll find out in sort of mid to late November about all of this. If it is a situation where we have more people apply than we have spots, you may get an email saying you've been waitlisted for the program. If so, I'll be in touch with you about what that means. Most years we do have some waitlist spots that do open up, so people from the waitlist are able to move into spots that open up. If we have another first year program that has some spots on it, I may tell you, hey, there's some spots available on a different program if you'd like to be considered for that one. But I'll kind of help coordinate that if that happens. And then in terms of cost for the program, first of all, you pay for the tuition for the classes. You're going to be registered in 6 credit hours. 4 credits are this LSP 112 focal point seminar class that you're in. And then you get registered in another 2 credits for the time while you're abroad. Because basically what happens is that focal point seminar that you're in throughout the winter quarter, before you ever even get on a plane, you will have completed that class and those 4 credits. So you get 2 more credits for the time abroad for whatever assignments, reflections, journals, final project, your participation in the abroad program, and that's the additional 2 credits. Those are just credits that are elective credits that go into your open electives. But you do need to know you're going to be registered in 6 credit hours in your winter quarter. If you don't want to pay extra tuition, make sure that you don't go over a total of 18 credits. So if you're registered in 12 or less credits on your own, then when we put you in the 6 credits for the study abroad course, that would mean you wouldn't go over 18 credit hours. So as you're doing your winter quarter schedule, make sure you don't register in more than 12 credit hours. Or if you do, some students will register in a backup focal point seminar in case they don't get in or in case they decide not to move forward. And once you're accepted, you can say, okay, I've been accepted, and then you can drop that class and then we'll get you registered. But our office registers you in the classes, so you can't do it yourself. You wait until acceptance to see about that. But just make sure you're looking at how that works with your credit hours. The one fee that you definitely do have to pay then is the program fee, and that's $3,450 for this program. What's nice is it includes basically everything. It is your round trip airfare from Chicago to Ecuador. It's your accommodations for the entire program. It's basically your entire meals for the program, except for like one lunch and one dinner. All of your meals are covered, all your activities, excursions, transportation, your international health insurance. So it's really just a tiny little bit here and there for food and whatever personal spending money, but everything else is covered. And as I mentioned, those scholarships range from $1,000 up to almost the full cost of the program. So if you do get a scholarship, even if you get the smallest scholarship, it knocks about a third of the cost off the program right from the start. So that's kind of how that works. Right, and then if you have any questions, the Ecuador homepage has a lot of information on there. But if you have questions about the application process or any sort of the logistics, I'm the person that you can contact in the study abroad office. Windsor can be there to answer any questions about the course itself or the time on the ground and activities that you're doing. He's your best authority for those types of things. And we'll sort of open it up to questions now. You can put something in the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you've got a more personal question, we'll also stick around as well. But let me stop share.
And just to reemphasize something.
Yeah, please.
Make sure you apply by November 1st. If you apply by November 1st, you're considered for scholarships. If you apply later, you're not. So you have to apply by November 1st. So
Yeah.
you know, that's very important, and they don't make exceptions for that. So make sure you have your application in a little bit early. We also are screening for interviews. So if you finish your application first, you're more likely to get an early interview. So just a heads up about that.
Yeah, and you do need to apply by the end of the day, November 1st. There are situations where for some programs, we extend the application deadline if we've still got some spots available. So if November 1st hits and there's still some potential room on the program, we may extend that application deadline for a couple of weeks. But as Windsor said, we don't extend application deadlines for the scholarships. So you'll be able to apply for the program potentially, but you won't be considered for scholarships. But if we've got a healthy number of applications on November 1st, that deadline won't even get extended for the program. So you got to get your application in by November 1st. All right, what questions do people have? Like I said, unmute yourself, put something in the chat. What can we answer for you about the course, about the time in Ecuador?
That's a good question. So this class is going to take place in the Lincoln Park campus. Well, I shouldn't say the room. In the past, we've used Arts and Letters. It's going to take place in Lincoln Park.
Question about how many people have submitted applications so far. It's one of those where hard to tell. We're kind of in the middle of it. A lot of people have started their application. We've had a handful who've submitted it. We've got a bunch of people who are sort of in the process of it. And a lot of people start doing it in this last week or two. So we'll kind of see what happens. But yeah, it's hard to know the exact numbers because a lot of people are sort of partially through their application at this point. The last question there too, is there a specific major you have to be in for this class? That's a big no. Just like your Discover Explore class this fall, the point is that these classes are open to any major. It's a chance to sort of explore basic reading, writing, and research and look at that from a variety of different disciplines. So there are definitely some people who will do their focal point seminar on something that relates to their major, but a lot of people will do it just on a topic that sounds interesting to them. And that's the point. You're gonna have a lot of time to do major classes down the line. So this is a class that's open to anybody from any major if the topic is interesting to you. Yeah, question about the dates and times for class. Maybe someone may have come in a little bit late. It's going to be Friday afternoons. What was the time again exactly? Is it
2:30 to 5:45.
Yes.
Friday. It's Fridays, in the winter quarter, it's going to be every Friday. We have, the classes in session, 2:30 to 5:45.
Question there about classes you have to take before taking this course. Great question. The one prerequisite for this is your WRD 103, which is another freshman requirement. Some of you may have come in with credits already for that, for something you did in high school or advanced placement credits. You may already be taking that this fall, but if you have not and you still need to do your WRD 103, you must register in that for winter quarter. You can take it at the same time you're taking the class. So if you've already completed it this fall or before, great. But if not, make sure to register for WRD 103 in your winter quarter. And that is something you need to do. And then, yeah, for signing up for the class, you don't register yourself in the class. If you apply to the program and you get accepted, and then you decide that you do want to move forward with the program, then our office will register you in the LSP 112 class. So what you should do for your winter schedule is just leave a little space in there for it. Or if you want to register in another LSP 112, focal point, or some other class as a placeholder for now until you see what happens, then once you get accepted and hear that you're going to move forward with the program, you can just drop that as we register you in it. The good thing is all that's going to be happening in sort of November, early December with lots of time. So, if you register for a backup class, no big deal. We'll register you in the coursework. You may be in an extra class at that point, but you've got lots of time to just drop that backup class way before the winter quarter starts in that few weeks you've got off in December.
And there was a question about applying for more than one study abroad program. So
missed that one.
Yeah, you can't apply for more than one study abroad program for the same quarter.
Yeah, so if
you have to decide which one.
Yeah, if you're looking at the spring break programs, decide on the one you like most. And again, if you don't get a spot in one of the programs, we will be in touch with you to coordinate and see, hey, the program you applied for may be full, but this other one may have some spots available. And so we'll talk to you about a backup option or one of the summer study abroads for first year abroad that might be an option. But yeah, pick the one that you're most interested in. We want you to pursue the one that most connects with what you'd like to do. Other questions? All right. Well, thank you again for coming, everybody. We're really excited that you're interested in the program. If you haven't gotten your application started or in yet, make sure to do that in this next week and a half or so. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us. We will also stick around too. There was a question here. If you get a backup option, would you still get a scholarship? Yes, whatever program you're considered for, as long as you applied before November 1st, you would be considered for the scholarships. So even if it was a different program you were potentially switching to, we count the fact that you applied for your original program on time, and so you'll absolutely still be considered for scholarships for that. Let's see, a couple more questions here. Are transfer students eligible? Technically, yes. If you are a new transfer student to DePaul and it's your first year, you could apply for the program. For some transfer students, you don't need LSP 112. That's not a course that you actually need for your degree, so you might want to take that into account. It is a situation where we could give you experiential learning credit for it instead, which is often something that you do need. But just think about what your degree progress is and if you've got room in your schedule for that, if this is not a course that you need. But as long as it's your first year as you are a transfer student, you would be eligible to apply. And then the other question there was about your transcript. Yes, if you're a new student to DePaul and this is your first quarter and you don't have grades yet, we do want a transcript from your last school. So whether that's a community college or another college, or whether you came straight from high school. So you just need to get an unofficial transcript from that school. It does not have to be an official transcript in a sealed envelope that they mail to the university. Just a screenshot of your grades, a photo. If you've got a printed out high school transcript, you can take a photo of it and upload it. But if you have access still to your high school system, you can just log in and do a screenshot of all your classes in your GPA from high school. That would be great. Or if you need to contact your high school to get that, just make sure you tell them it doesn't need to be official. It can just be an unofficial electronic copy, but you do need to upload that.
Yeah, there's a question about the attendance policy. So with the attendance, it's a seminar and where it's going to be discussion based. So we are assuming that you're going to be attending every class. There'll be a participation grade, which is about 20% of your grade. And usually I give a a 1 week credit basically. So the lowest participation grade is dropped. In case you get sick, you shouldn't come in. But the program is designed for you to be there every class. If you think, if you have work or, for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to attend much, the program isn't structured for that. We can't really deal with that easily. So it's probably not the best idea. I'm assuming that you're going to come to every session. And if it's an emergency, like a major health issue, then that's a different story. But going in, just the mindset is very important. Come every Friday.
And because it's a program that, instead of meeting twice a week for a smaller amount of time, it only meets once a week in a bigger chunk. So if you miss one class, you've missed 1/10 of the content of the course. So it's a big deal missing one class. And I will say, you need to have good attendance and have a passing grade, like at least a C- or better before the abroad experience to be able to go abroad. So if we get to week 6, week 7, week 8 of the program, of the course, and you've been missing classes or you haven't been getting assignments in and your grade is struggling, it is a situation where you could be removed from the program and not able to travel to Ecuador. We do not have to do that often, but every year we've got a couple students who have not shown up to class or have not been doing the work, and we have to tell them that they can't go on the program. And there's some pretty significant financial penalties for that too, because at that late date, we've already booked your tickets, we've paid for everything, but we won't let you go on the program if you're not passing the class or getting at least a C- anticipated by the time it's time to get on the plane. So there's a question here too about the syllabus. You'll definitely get the syllabus once the course starts. I don't know if that's something you provide beforehand ever, or
well, usually I'll post it, a few days before, like the first week of class or right before the first week of class. I don't have a syllabus yet for this program, but what I can do is I can see the syllabus for the last time I ran it, and it'll be generally similar in the structure. And yeah, let me provide that. And if you're curious, basically we have just kind of as a overview, we have something called the Global Hour. So there's a staff professional, there's another person from DePaul that's going to be an instructor, and they have activities about how to behave abroad. What is the etiquette for being abroad? How do you stay safe abroad? How do you make sure you don't get sick because you're a little bit too adventurous with the food? And other things. And so there's a global
how to pack, kind of getting to know each other as a group before you go, like exploring your identity, all kinds of cool stuff that kind of prepares you to go abroad.
So that's worth 20% of your grade. Participation, discussion, reflections worth 20%. We have presentations you'll have to prepare, so that's going to be worth 15%. For the readings, I have you submit discussion points. So there's a reading assignment, and so you should have something prepared to talk about. Something you can say, hey, I thought this was really interesting, this is my favorite point, or I didn't really get this, or I don't agree with this. So you have something prepared so you can time the discussion. We have the paper section drafts are going to be worth 10%, and there is the peer review you're going to do peer review of your papers, of your paper sections, and you'll get credit for that. So that's worth 5%. And then the final review paper, when you assemble everything, go through the edits, put in the summary and the conclusions and the ending part, that's going to be worth 20% of your final grade. So, but I will add this to the chat here. So if you'd like it, it's not the syllabus for the course. This was the syllabus from last time. So there might be minor changes, but the basic structure will probably be the same.
What fun activities will you do? That's a great question. So yeah.
Okay. I just sent it, so you should get to.
Great.
What fun activities? Well, I'm a little bit biased, so I think the whole thing is going to be fun. But yeah, part of the program, you'll have some downtime. We'll take a boat to an island, so you'll see, the boat ride and all that. We'll be hiking a lot. We'll see the animals. You'll have downtime in Puerto Lopez, so you'll have at least half of a day there. Maybe more. And then with the indigenous community, they do craft building too. We have an activity where you make chocolate. Like they harvest the chocolate and they prepare it, and then you make it and you get to try that. You make some crafts. They make these figures with leaves. So the indigenous community has these things, and then we'll have boat rides where we do different things. They take us fishing if you're okay with fishing. So the indigenous community will take us out fishing. So there's a bunch of activities, but the whole program is basically, when we're in the field, the whole program is basically activities. Like we're going out on hikes, we're doing things with people, and there's as we do these things, our guides or the scientists will be explaining things about the nature. So you're active the whole time in natural ecosystems, and then you're learning by seeing things. So I think the whole thing is kind of geared towards that. And then you do have a little bit of downtime, mostly on the beach side. There will be downtime in the other places, especially in the indigenous community as well. But there, you can't really go on your own into the forest. There's jaguars and anacondas. So when we're on the beach is when you can go into the town and on the beach and do things by yourself. And when the downtime in the community will be like in that little area we're in.
And I just uploaded the syllabus, so that's there if anyone wants to click on it. And then, yeah, will you be able to practice your Spanish? If you're a Spanish speaker, yeah, you'll have plenty of chances to speak Spanish, I'm sure. So
yeah. The people, our scientists and the guide will speak English. And I obviously speak English and Spanish, but the other people we interact with, most of the people in the indigenous community, they don't speak English. And other people in those areas, when we're in the beach town, some people will speak English, most people won't. So you'll have the opportunity to interact with people that only speak Spanish. And then the guides, obviously, they know Spanish too. If you want to talk to them in Spanish, you can.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, again. We'll stick around if you have any other questions. We appreciate it. We look forward to getting your application, and have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.